You asked, and we heard you, America.
Real America's Voice is coming to iHeart Media.
Yes, Real America's Voice is now breaking through the white noise of the mainstream media.
Just download the iHeart app, and you'll have all of us right at your fingertips.
Scan the QR code and start streaming RAV anywhere you want.
Real America's Voice, available whenever you need us.
It's never been easier to stay connected with the voices you trust.
RAV on iHeart means you can take us with you wherever you go.
This is huge. The truth on iHeart. Ready whenever you are.
From Charlie Kirk to Steve Bannon, Jack Posobiec to Grant Stinchfield, you'll find all your favorite RAV hosts in one place.
You can listen on Spotify, Apple, Pandora, or Amazon. RAV is now available everywhere you get your podcasts. All you need to do is scan the QR code right now.
Download the iHeart app today and get ready for Real America's Voice.
Scan the QR code and join the RAV movement.
Good evening, America. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the latest edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you, as always, from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. And, of course, the wiredtofishcoffee.com studios. Wired to Fish Coffee, it's my favorite coffee. It's a lot of people's favorite coffee. It's going like gangbusters. You can get the brand new 2-pound super inflation-busting bag for under $20 if you use the promo code JustNews at checkout. Go to wired2fishcoffee.com and use the promo code JustNews. You'll get that and 10% off anything else in the store. It's a really good deal. All right, for most of the last several years, Americans have been clamoring for accountability here in Washington. Increasingly, they're getting it. Today, the House of Representatives formally censured Democrat Congressman Al Green for repeatedly interrupting President Trump during his address to a joint session of Congress. Now, Democrats tried one more time to play the victim card before it got over, going to the well of Congress for a short-term protest. Take a look at this.
That Representative Al Green be censured. That Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure. And that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker.
All right, if you couldn't make out what was going on there, they were singing the great civil rights song, We Shall Overcome, which was very important during the Martin Luther King era. This had nothing to do with civil rights. It had to do with bad behavior, being rude during a formal proceeding. Well, it didn't work. The House voted to censure Green, and 10 Democrats joined Republicans, so it made it a bipartisan rebuke. How about that? Meanwhile, President Trump today signed an executive order just a few minutes ago asking the Justice Department to review the, quote, dishonest and dangerous activity, unquote, of the Democrat-tied firm Perkins Coie. That's a law firm that represented Hillary Clinton during the 2016 campaign and, of course, played a role in the bogus Russia collusion probe. The action, in the form of an executive order, sent shockwaves through K Street, where all the nation's big law firms reside here in the nation's capital. And finally, Hunter Biden and his ability to attract millions from foreign interests. Well, apparently it's coming to an end now that his famous father has left office. Today, the former first son asked a judge, late last night, the former first son asked a judge in California to dismiss a lawsuit Hunter Biden had brought against the former Trump aide for publishing the contents of his infamous laptop. You remember that lawsuit. The reason Hunter Biden gave, you ready for this? He stated he's simply too broke to proceed. He admitted in the filing that all those consulting fees and those painting sales, remember the ones that he was getting? Well, they dried up as soon as his father left power. I wonder why that happened, Amanda. A little bit of justice in a different form. You've got some other headlines you're watching today, right?
Yes, indeed.
All right, what do you got on the plate?
Yes, President Trump had another busy day, and as part of that, he addressed DOGE and significantly downsizing the federal government, something that the Trump administration has been working every day to do, as it was a campaign trail promise. And as we know, it is much easier said than done to cut government spending. Now, he met with cabinet leaders today, as well as Elon Musk, and directed them to work with DOGE to scale back their departments, but to do it in a more precise fashion. Take a listen to how the president described it today.
I had a meeting and I said, I want the cabinet members go first, keep all the people you want, everybody that you need. And it would be better if they were there for 2 years instead of 2 weeks, because in 2 years they'll know the people better. But I want them to do the best job they can. When we have good people, that's precious. That's very important, and we want them to keep the good people. And so we're going to be watching them, and Elon and the group are going to be watching them. And if they can cut, it's better. And if they don't cut, then Elon will do the cutting.
And Elon Musk, for his part, chimed in on X, simply writing, "Very productive meeting," in response to President Trump's post on Truth Social about making sure that they keep the best people in government while also cutting down its size. And on the tariff front, President Trump is giving a little bit of reprieve to Canada and Mexico, signing an executive order that delays that 25% tariff on some Canadian goods, as well as delaying the 25% tariffs on Mexico for another month, of course, not including the USMCA goods. However, the president stated from the Oval Office today that most of the tariffs will take effect April 2nd. All right, John, time to hand it back over to you so we can get to our first guest.
I like that. We're lucky. Earlier today, we spent some time with Congressman Troy Downing. He's one of those who were on the House floor and voted for the censure of Congressman Al Green. He joined us to explain what went on and a whole lot more. Take a watch. All right, joining us now, someone who was in the chamber when that censure motion this morning was passed, from the great state of Montana, Congressman Troy Downing. Congressman, glad to have you in the show. Thank you for joining us.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So today was a pretty big day. Within less than 48 hours, accountability was delivered to a member of Congress who acted badly during that speech that everyone saw in America. How important was it to get it done quickly to send a message, and also 10 Democrats crossing over and joining it?
Well, first of all, we're just trying to get the work of the people done. And I think that was conduct. What we saw during the joint address in Congress, the presidential joint address, is it was conduct unbecoming a member of Congress. It was disrespectful to the office, to the chamber, to the body, to his party, to this country, the voters that put us there. It was completely the wrong place, and the fact that he continued to go when Speaker Johnson gave him fair warning. I think it was reprehensible, but it comes back to this theme that I've seen, in my committee work and the work that we're trying to get done here is, the minority party. A lot of the folks, have really tried to, just slow things down or make it difficult to actually do business. And, the voters put us here for a reason, to do the work. A lot of people are really concerned the direction this country was going. I personally think we're on the precipice. I think we're looking off a cliff with our hands windmilling in the air. And now we've got a president that's getting things done. I think there's been more than 100 presidential actions already. Congress is right in lockstep trying to, codify these actions. And I hear people saying, too much, too fast, and I disagree. I think we are at the precipice, and it demands fast action. But getting to your point, I think that was conduct unbecoming. I think that was an appropriate measure, and I don't think we've heard the last of that.
I bet you're right.
Well, and Americans who were polled afterwards agree with you. I think by an 80 to 20 margin, they thought that it was inappropriate. Does it surprise you, though? I mean, today, obviously, the censure vote, and then you had Democrats in Congress singing "We Will Overcome." Did it seem performative, or did it seem genuine? Maybe they really do feel oppressed.
Well, a lot of this, and it's hard for me to get a grasp on what I saw during the joint address. I'm looking over at my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, and just the basic abandonment of humanity, not to be able to applaud a kid that's fighting brain cancer, not to have sympathy for a family that lost their daughter, not to be, happy that we have, apprehended terrorists that have, harmed America. All of that stuff I thought was reprehensible. Why? What message are they trying to say here? I think they've completely lost touch with the American people. I think everybody watching that is trying to understand. They expect some partisan disagreements, but they don't expect somebody to completely abandon humanity and not be able to celebrate a surviving 13-year-old kid or a young man getting a place in a military academy. I mean, what an incredible thing! And you can't celebrate that. I don't know what's going on there. And then for the solidarity that we saw at the censure of them taking the well on the House floor and start singing, it's like I think they're so out of touch. I don't know how they get back to bring the American people that have supported them in the past back into their fold. I think they're completely tone deaf, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and the people just want to get work done. They want to get this country fixed, and that's a bipartisan sentiment in the American people now. Sir, you sit on two very important committees. One of them, financial services, the banking committee, as we traditionally call them. Over the last several months, it's been over the last year, really, a lot of central banks across the world are beginning to buy up gold. There's also we had a gentleman in here yesterday starting up a bank that has a gold backing to its currency. Is there, what are some of the dynamics that has made gold alluring and interesting to central banks around the world, and even in some of our banking markets here in America right now?
Well, uncertainty has always driven people towards, hard assets. And, I think a lot of folks are just wondering what happens, next. But I'll tell you, I'm really excited about what we're doing on financial services. I think that Chairman Hill is, the perfect person for that role. I think he's a smart, driven guy. We're going to start, really solving some problems in banking, in digital assets, in capital markets, all the things that we do there. And I'm really excited. And, even, some of the prospects about reserve currencies in allowing, crypto and some other things to come in there. I think we're going to see a lot of changes with monetary policy for the positive. And I'm really excited about what we do there. But I think a lot of it, we're driving to hard assets. Folks, sometimes have a sense of uncertainty and they start looking at that. And I think that that's all going to balance out.
Yeah, makes sense.
Congressman, you're on the Small Business Committee, and Main Street definitely showed up for President Trump in November, and he even touched on this a little on Tuesday night. But he campaigned really hard on deregulation and streamlining the permitting process for small businesses, what businesses across the board. Talk to us about some of the work that you're doing in concert with the president to expedite that process.
Well, and I'm really happy to be on this committee. My background is in small business. I was in venture. I've helped a lot of small businesses form. And before I was in Congress, I was a securities regulator in Montana, and capital formation was a huge part of what I did. And so, simply stated, it's finding entrepreneurs, it's finding small business owners, it's finding people with ideas trying to build businesses, and coupling them with access to capital. And I think one of the things that really drives creating and growing the small business community, which is the lifeblood of America and definitely the lifeblood of Montana, is access to capital and finding ways to make it easier to bank them, for them to get loans, to find capital from investors. And there's just been so many regulatory roadblocks that have slowed that down. And I think that's one of the missions of really looking at that red tape that's inhibited that access to capital, so you can build and grow small business. And I'm really excited about what the president is doing in this space. I'm really excited what we're going to do with Chairman Williams in small business. It's an exciting time to be an American. It's an exciting time to be building a business because, we see the opportunity. We see what it means to Main Street America. This is the creating jobs. This is spending money in communities. This is what, revitalizes the American economy. And I think we've got a whole lot of potential in front of us. And we've got smart people around the table that are willing to do the work to streamline that access and make sure that it's not just ridiculous regulation and access to capital that's keeping you from actually building the American dream.
Yeah, so important. Sir, I know you served our country bravely in Afghanistan when the president announced Tuesday night that they had brought to justice and were flying back to face trial here one of the perpetrators of the Abbey Gate bombing. I would like to get your reaction to that. And then in the last 24 hours, we've learned more about this guy, that he was involved in a couple of other terrorist attacks. Has confessed to that already. What were you thinking when that announcement came through, and how important is it for the families and for America at large?
It's incredibly important. And, I look back, having served in Afghanistan, and, I do I have done a lot of work with, veteran groups and, a lot of post 9/11 veterans. And I just have to first preface it that, what we saw in that, horrible withdrawal in Afghanistan was unforgivable. I think it's a blemish on America. It's going to be, difficult for our service members in the future to, gain trust that they may need from allies. I think there's so many problems, and obviously, the biggest, sore spot in that or pain point in that were the lives that were lost. And I'll tell you, anytime you can bring somebody to justice, this gives closure to those families. It gives closure to those victims, and even the ones that weren't directly affected. Just knowing, that we're doing something, that the sacrifices that our servicemen and women have done in defense of this great nation, that none of it's in vain. That the United States of America, and especially this president, this Congress, have your back, and we're going to be watching out for you. And if people do us wrong, we're going to bring them back. We're going to bring them to justice. I think that's an incredible win.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, we're grateful for your service to your country, first in the battlefield, today in Capitol Hill. It's a great honor to have you on the show today, sir. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me anytime. And God bless America. We're starting that new golden age, and I'm just so honored to be part of that.
It feels different. There's no doubt about it. And it's great to have you here in Washington. Thank you, sir, for joining us. All right, folks, coming up next, Texas Congressman Randy Weber joins us. He always brings a lot of fun stuff to talk about. We'll have that right after these messages. Hey, folks, let's be honest. Our body lets us know, right? We're not getting any younger. And if you want to look and feel your best, you need to check out our good friends at Pure Health Research. They have 45 premium health supplements designed to help with every health goal, whether it's boosting your energy, trimming belly fat, supporting healthy blood sugar, pumping your testosterone up, or even reducing swelling in your legs. Pure Health Research Supplement Store has you covered. Each formula is crafted with natural, non-GMO ingredients backed by clinical research and manufactured right here in the good old USA. And here's the best part. Pure Health Research is offering you an exclusive 35% discount. You heard me right, 35% off. Just go to purehealthresearch.com and use the coupon code JUSTNEWS at checkout. With their 365-day money-back guarantee, there's zero risk in trying something new, so why wait? Head over to purehealthresearch.com right now. Explore their 45 amazing supplements and save 35% before this deal ends with the coupon code JUSTNEWS. Don't miss this chance to feel your best.
Welcome back to Just the News, No Noise. So much happening in the nation's capital today, like every day, basically, since January 20th. And we showed you earlier Democrats singing "We Will Overcome" as the vote to censure Congressman Al Green was taking place. And that isn't the only wave that President Trump's address 2 nights ago is still making. With us to talk about more of those waves and looking ahead to legislative battles next week is Texas Congressman Randy Weber. Congressman, thank you so much for being here, sir.
Well, thank y'all for having me. Y'all always do a great job. We appreciate y'all, Amanda.
Well, we thank you, sir. I want to start with President Trump's speech. We're just trying to get a top-line idea from each of our guests tonight. It seemed hopeful, it seemed forward-thinking, but Democrats didn't seem to think so.
Oh, you're just showing the video. You're not actually playing the audio. I got you.
Oh, no, okay. That's just B-roll. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, look, I was right across the aisle from Al Green, and I watched him, and it was disgraceful that he sought to interrupt the President of the United States over and over and over again. And I have to tell you, Amanda and John, I thought about grabbing his cane and breaking it, not over him, but over the back of the chair. And I was very, very grateful. You probably saw me. I said, do this, throw that sucker out. I don't know if y'all saw the hand gesture. Yeah, and it's like, you know what? You don't get the right to interrupt. The American people wanted to see and wanted to hear, and yet Al Green thought he was more important.
Yeah, really remarkable. And he paid for it today. History will remember him as a censured lawmaker, which was important. Sir, I want to talk a little bit about some of the big ideas that President Trump put on the table on Tuesday night, resuming or beginning rare earth mining in America, something we could have done for a long time, but we've yielded to China. Shipbuilding, getting that back on U.S. soil, rebuilding our supply lines of the great shipbuilding and the threat of China and its ship industry. These were big ideas that haven't been thought of in a long time or even moved forward. Does Congress follow right up and make sure that these things become law and get going?
Well, I sure hope so, John. You probably know my district is the upper Gulf Coast of Texas, starting at the Louisiana line. We've got 7 ports, and more than anybody else. Some have 4. We have 7. Shipbuilding for us, Galveston Shipyard was an old shipyard back in the day, and there's no reason why we should be having to have ships built. Choose the country, Japan, nothing wrong with Japan or South Korea, but we ought to be doing that here. It means American jobs. It means American ingenuity. It means that we are literally in the business of doing all the commerce we can right here in the United States of America. I'm fully behind that.
Yeah, exciting.
Sir, another thing that President Trump, I know, is intent on tackling is the economy, bringing down inflation. And a lot of Democrat criticism out there about him not doing anything specifically to fight inflation. But one of the things that drives inflation down is energy production. And now you've got in Southeast Texas, Secretary Wright approved that export permit extension for LNG. That's going to do a lot to drive the economy in a better direction, isn't it?
Well, it is, but here's a news flash, Amanda. The Democrats hate fossil fuel. That's just as simple as I can put it. You can't drive ships and tanks and airplanes with solar panels and wind power. I'm sorry, you just can't do that. And that was in our Port Arthur, Texas, Port Arthur LNG. And when you talk about inflation and the economy, because if you're an investor and you've got to choose a number, $3 billion, $5 billion, $7 billion plant that you're trying to get built, and Port Arthur was through phase 1, fixing to go into phase 2, when Biden, I call him O'Biden because was Obama's 3rd term. When O'Biden put the quietus on, investors get real nervous about that. They don't know how long that permit's going to be stymied. You know what I'm saying? And so it was a big deal. We should be exporting as much LNG as we can. We make money do it. It's jobs. It helps our allies. There's no reason why we shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, it's just common sense, no doubt about it. So you talk often about the importance of peace through strength and how much Donald Trump has restored American prominence and respect on the world stage. In the last couple of days, we've seen Ukraine, the little recalcitrant, suddenly come back to the table, talks potentially in Saudi Arabia next week, and Hamas getting a really poignant message from President Trump. Get those hostages released or something bad's about to happen. How important is it, and how do you think Hamas will react to the very serious words that President Trump and his team uttered today?
Well, it's extremely important. That's the good news. How will Hamas react? Man, I wish I had confidence that they would do the right thing. But you're talking about killers, thugs, murderers, rapists. These are people who take unborn babies and take babies and put them in ovens. I just don't know that they don't hold off to the bitter end. God willing that they'll do the right thing. And I know that President Trump is going to be there, whatever they do. He will hold them accountable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's right.
When you talk about the rapists and the murderers and all of the crime, that also applies to our southern border with respect to the cartel. And border crossings are vastly down. However, it's still happening to some degree. President Trump is going to tackle this one way or another via executive fiat or through Congress. What does Congress want to do to help him codify the improvements he's made?
Well, one of the things, look, people don't have the right to come over here and break into our country. They've already broken the law. So the Remain in Mexico policy has to be reinstated. When people want to apply for asylum, they need to go to the embassies in their countries and say, look, I want to apply for asylum. 3 reasons. Number 1, my government is after me. Number 2, I'm persecuted because of my religious belief. Or number 3, because I'm part of a group, a certain group, whatever it might be, LBGP, whatever group it might be. And so I expect that Congress ought to get behind the president. The thing that concerns me, Amanda, is that 60-vote threshold in the Senate, because I think we can get it done in the House over here. We did it, was it the year before last? And so I think we can get it done, but I just don't know if the Senate will play ball with us.
Yeah, that is the big question, has been for some time. So I want to turn a little bit to what lies ahead in the budget. The House passed a budget resolution that actually puts us on a course to cut $2 trillion over 10 years. The Senate has a different plan. You guys are going to come together, joint session. Walk us through what happens to get agreement there, and then what happens when we get to the actual CR that does the funding.
Well, we hope to get there. We may have to get the CR out first, and then we'll go to reconciliation. I think it's been pushed back from the first week of April to the third week of May, if I've got, maybe it's almost Memorial Day. But look, y'all talked about inflation earlier, and some of the economists that I read growing up, inflation is too much money chasing too few goods. That was this definition, I think of John Smith, maybe I forget the author, of inflation. President is working on inflation. We've got to be working on bringing it down. The president is focused on that. We've got to get, and we're doing it with reconciliation, with the money that you saw the budget come out, with the money that we're intent on cutting and spending. We've got to do that job. And the Democrats are absolutely intent on doing this to us, doing that. They don't want us to be successful because they want to get back in power. But yet the American public voted on November the 5th that they didn't want the Democrats' way. They wanted Trump's way.
That's right.
Yeah, great point.
Sir, before we let you go, I know you're on science, space, and technology, and we still have some Americans in space. I know we talked about President Trump's reputation and our reputation on the world stage. The space frontier is another place where we can get some respect back. How do we get them home?
Well, Elon Musk might play a little part in that. There may be some negotiations going on. But look, this in any military conflict, whichever army, whichever country occupies the high ground has the upper hand. There is no higher ground than space. I've been saying this for a long time. We had better be preeminent in space at whatever cost, because China is working on it, Russia's working on it, you're seeing some other countries. We've got to be in the lead in space, pure and simple, and we got to get our people home.
Yeah. Amen.
The Russians beat us in one respect in space, so we got to make sure that never happens again. Texas Congressman Randy Weber, thank you so much for being on the show with us tonight, sir. We'll have you back on very soon.
Thank you for what y'all do. Appreciate y'all.
Yes, sir. Likewise. President Trump is taking some heat internationally for his stance on Ukraine, but he seems to be getting what he wants out of Europe, so we're going to talk about that after this.
Welcome back, everybody. For people who haven't watched Donald Trump for the last decade, sometimes when you see him work like on terrorists, where they're in, they're out, it sometimes feels like the hokey pokey. Your right leg's in, his right leg's out. But there's actually an extraordinary strategy behind it. Nobody understands that better than our next guest, who's been alongside the president for most of the last decade on the Trump campaign and was the chairman of the Frontline Government Relations. Now, his new firm today, our good friend, Michael Glassner. Michael, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, John, Amanda. It's always great to be with you.
It's been amazing because so much of what Donald Trump has done in the last 6 weeks has literally forced Europe to come our way, Ukraine to come our way, Canada and Mexico to come our way. So the media likes to say, well, I don't understand this. He's zigging and zagging, but actually there's a strategy to all of this, isn't there?
Absolutely. You know, it's really so elemental. Like, everybody should be required to read The Art of the Deal. It's all in there. You know, Donald Trump has followed his, philosophy his entire career. It's worked for him, obviously, extremely well in business. It works in government. He knows how to make a deal. And, the Democrats and the left-wing media just keep falling into the same trap over and over. They, Donald Trump makes an assertion, or he starts a negotiation, and they immediately, the hair's on fire, and it's the end of the world, and what is this crazy guy doing? And then the deal comes through, and they're surprised. So it just keeps happening over and over. We're seeing that again on multiple fronts right now.
The president should just bring a copy of The Art of the Deal down to the White House Correspondents Association.
Hand it out to everybody.
Because his reporters would save a lot of anguish if they just read the darn thing. They'd be so much smarter. Yeah.
Michael, John mentioned the hokey pokey, but it's also red light, green light when it comes to the tariffs. And I want to ask you specifically about Canada, because President Trump's got to walk a very thin line and a very delicate balance between protecting the United States interests, but also Justin Trudeau, for sure, is improving his numbers in Canada. A few months ago, Pierre Poilievre was far ahead of him, not even hardly seen ahead of him when it came to the polling. But now Justin Trudeau is campaigning on this and standing strong for Canada. It's a very, very small needle to thread. How does President Trump do it?
Well, we just referred to this. He will make a deal in the end that's going to be to the benefit of America and to American workers. But it's not, it can get complicated. Obviously Canada has been a very strong trading partner for the United States for a very long time. And President Trump recognizes that. But they also have to stop the flow of fentanyl across the border. Like, he's made that very clear throughout all three of his campaigns, and that's a priority for the United States. So I think you're going to see him continuing to be aggressive towards Canada to stop the flow of the killer drugs, regardless of the short-term impact on our economy. He said it, and I believe it. I think Americans are willing to withstand a little short-term pain for the long-term gain of stopping the death that's been foisted upon us by the Chinese manufacturers and the complicit countries to our north and south. So it is complicated, but ultimately he's going to win because he has to stop that scourge.
Yeah, no doubt about it. 2026 is a big election year, and it's never too early to start thinking about it because all the campaigns are already thinking about it. It seemed to me that the Democratic Party on Tuesday night gave the American people the perfect attack ad for Republicans to run against them the rest of the time, because they can't even applaud for a young man who survives cancer, has those scars on his head. He just wants to become a cop and a public servant to give back for the good fate that he survived cancer. And the Democrats can't even applaud for that. How visually resonating was that for Americans? And will it stick around for a while?
I think it will, because, President Trump went there, obviously, with the highest approval rating he's ever had. And the Democrats are just living in a false reality. They just cannot recognize that he won by a lot in the popular vote and the Electoral College. And he has the strong backing of the majority of the American people. The Republican Party 100% is backing him. So President Trump got up there. He talked about the successes he's had in this very short period. It's really quite remarkable. And the Democrats just keep falling into the same trap. They can't help themselves. It's all performative. They're trying to mollify their far left-wing base. And it's just been proven, particularly this last election, that the majority of the country is not buying into that agenda. The hypocrisy is just astounding. These far left Democrats, they vote against banning men from women's sports and then they show up wearing pink, supposedly promoting feminism. It's just madness.
Well, and Michael, help me understand, because whether you're talking about Republicans or Democrats, they listen to their strategists, and the strategists are looking at the polling and the focus rooms. The polling doesn't support trans Inc. within the Democrat Party's platform. Who's telling them to dig in on this?
I don't know, but I just don't understand. They're stuck in this path. They can't find a way out of it. And the beauty is that President Trump and his administration just keeps boxing them in. They can't change. And if they do, they fear they're losing their base. I'll say this, Gavin Newsom, I loathe his policies, but as a political operative and a strategist, he's obviously brilliant. You saw today he completely changed his position on that topic. Yep. It's because he's smart enough to understand that it's a stone cold loser. And he, all these policies that are 80% support across the board of all kinds of Americans, and then these Democrats are still supporting the contrary to that. It's just unfathomable. But to Newsom's credit, he gets it.
Yeah,
he does.
Yeah, he does. No doubt about it. President Trump's speech not only was so successful for the stage management and the honoring of everyday Americans and putting Democrats on the offensive, he laid out some big ideas. I mean, really big ideas, like rebuilding the ship industry, which we used to be great at, and we've yielded to China. Starting the rare earth mineral under our own soil. We've always been told, China has it all. We got it under our own soil. He wants to get that going. Getting a balanced budget before he's out of office. These are big, big ideas. Is the infrastructure in Congress and the Republican Party there to get the president what he needs to do this?
I really think it is. You saw the initial test vote on the budget resolution was the party was very unified. I mean, I'll say this, that's one advantage the Democrats have had over the Republicans in recent Congresses, that they march in lockstep. Yeah. They stick together. They form a very solid block. I think you're seeing that formulate under Speaker Mike Johnson. He was denigrated by many as not being strong enough or not being a smart enough strategist, but I think that's being disingenuous. The proof is in the pudding. That vote was very strong. I think you'll see a continuation of that, just because it's amazing how the media, the left-wing media, has become inured to the status quo, and like the negative impact that their globalist policies have had on the economy and on our country for so long, that they pretend that it's fine. And the fact is, it's not fine. And when President Trump points out what are just very common sense solutions, it seems like radicalism to them. But the fact is what the American people want. It's what they voted for, and it's what he's going to deliver.
Michael, another big idea, which shouldn't be a big idea, but President Trump said he wants to balance the budget, presumably within this term. The Republicans on Capitol Hill as a body, is that compatible with President Trump and his desire to do so?
It's funny. Those of us who've been around long enough know that has been a basis of the Republican platform for decades. Yeah, that was Ronald Reagan's mantra, and it should be ours. Again, it's the out of control spending has become normalized, and nobody really seems to care about balancing the budget. But the fact is, for the sake of our children and our grandchildren, it must be done. And I think the president ran on that platform. Again, it's another one of those things. He said this is what he was going to do, and he is actually doing it. And it's just astounding to many people because it's been so long since we've had a president that's actually done that. So this is just another thing. I think it's eminently doable. It's just if we have the will in the Republican Party to back up a strong president.
2:48 a.m. on the morning after the election in 2024, President Trump uttered these words: promises made, promises kept, and he has really lived to that in his first 5 weeks. It was a remarkable line, and it's really playing out before our eyes. Michael, you are always a pleasure to have on the show. We always learn so much from you. You understand the president better than anyone I know. Thanks so much for having you on today.
Thank you, John, Amanda. Yeah. Have a great night.
Great to have you, sir. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, folks. When we come back, we're going to take a closer look at the bird flu. We're hearing a lot about it. Should we be concerned? And also about measles. We'll have that with Dr. Peter McCullough right after these messages. Welcome back, America. We've been keeping a close watch on the headlines when it comes to measles and bird flu. And a couple days ago, I saw Dr. McCullough talking, and I noticed a little bit of change in his analysis of what's going on. I wanted to bring him back on. There's nobody we trust more about the science of medicine than he. Of course, he's the Chief Scientific Officer at one of our partners here, the Wellness Company. He joins us right now. Dr. McCullough, good to have you back on, sir.
Thank you.
So I think over the last few weeks, there have been some signs that maybe bird flu is going to have some jumping to human. Am I misreading that? What are you seeing? What's your current analysis?
I think bird flu has taken a turn for the worse. The outbreak has gone on far too long. This culling and introducing fresh flocks to get reinfected over and over again has allowed time an opportunity for genetic misadventure, actually mutation and genetic reassortment. Now we've had the emergence of the D1.1 variant. Right. We've had one man die in Louisiana, a severe case. Fortunately, a teenager survives in British Columbia, and now a toddler dies in Indonesia. I'm greatly concerned. It's taken a turn for the worse. We have 40 mammal species now that can get infected, and now there's evidence of mammal-to-mammal spread. I think human-to-human spread is just around the corner.
Oh, gracious. All right, so culling was part of the problem that got us here, but is culling the solution? What's the solution?
No, culling is not the solution. You know, the average facility is taken offline for 3 months. They have a fresh flock that is, installed and grows up and gets reinfected by the mallard ducks over and over again. The culling needs to change to just take out the sick birds, which are relatively few, let the remaining birds develop this Venn diagram of natural herd immunity. That's the only thing that's going to bring this to the end. We saw Secretary Rollins come out and be appropriately reserved about vaccines in the animals and in humans, because if we mass vaccinate, the virus will just get stronger.
Yeah. I want to make sure people understand this, because I think what you're describing is that this culling process has actually made the transmissibility and the jumping to species more severe, rather than letting a natural virus take its course and create immunity quicker. Is that the right way to look at this?
That's right. Decades ago, bird flu has been around for 100 or more years. It would sweep through, it would be over with in about 2 years, and the birds would get natural immunity. This biosecurity strategy of killing, 200 million chickens when we've only had 10,000 actually get sick with bird flu has been counterproductive and extended the crisis.
All right, we talked about what the solution is on the industry side of things. For everyday consumers, do we need to be concerned about buying eggs, buying chicken breasts? What do we need to be concerned or wary about?
No, cooking to over 165 degrees should kill any bird flu. We don't recommend drinking, raw, unpasteurized milk. Eggs should be fine. Wellness companies stepped in with the Prevent and Protect program to just get our critical medical kits out to the farmers to make sure they're protected. Twice daily nasal sprays, throat sprays, and gargles, and then, of course, immediate use of oseltamivir, which works when started on day one. Our farmers will be protected thanks to the Wellness Company, but we have to get the USDA biosecurity strategy on track.
Well, and thank you to you and your company for taking that generous step and just getting in front of it. We got a new leadership coming into NIH, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. I think you and he agree on a lot of things. How important is it to get them in place quickly before we end up in another pandemic situation?
We need leadership that's transparent. I thought Bhattacharya and Macri today both did very well. Their opening lines were, a recommitment to the scientific process, what RFK is calling radical transparency, and that's what America wants to see.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Dr. McCullough, I want to shift gears to measles. We now have another death today. Measles is something, it's covered by the MMR vaccine, which as far as vaccine goes, pretty darn safe and reliable, and it's been around for a long time. Is measles something that we need to be worrying about, or is it only for people who are not vaccinated?
These cases need complete exposition, investigation. Remember, measles death, even before the vaccines, was way less than 1 in 1,000. How do we have 2 deaths in just a few hundred cases of measles? We have several hundred cases a year. What's changed? We need to hear about treatment where individuals appropriately treated with vitamin A, which is protocol? Did they get the measles immunoglobulin, which is an antibody that blocks the measles virus? Did they get full supportive care, secondary antibiotics? We're not hearing any details. This is very important. 95% of the cases, our public health authorities say, are unvaccinated or vaccine status unknown. Well, how many of those are people who actually took the measles vaccine? They can't find their records to prove it.
Yeah, that's a really important thing to find out. If it were to evade the vaccine, what would that suggest about the virus, that it's more mutated?
I'm greatly concerned that this is not the measles of yesteryear, where it was so mild. 2 deaths makes me very suspicious that something has changed, and we need bona fide public health investigation. A measles death with no explanation is not acceptable.
Yeah. It's really important.
Is vitamin A something that is readily available to your everyday consumer? Is it something people should have in their house?
Vitamin A is available in liquid form. Now, it's advised to be given just under the direction of a doctor. Under age 1, 100,000 units a day for 2 days. Over age 1, 200,000 units a day for 2 days. Again, available. You can buy it on, online. A cup of carrot juice is about 40,000 units. So if you just wanted a home remedy, 2 cups of carrot juice, vitamin A is very preventive and effective against severe measles.
Yeah, that's amazing. I didn't even know that. One last quick question. Are we in danger of another pandemic, or are there steps that can be taken to make sure we don't hit pandemic status on the bird flu at some point?
I think we're on the verge of human-to-human transmission and severe cases, and it's going to come out of the poultry and cattle industry. We have to protect that industry. The personal protective equipment and culling is not going to be enough. I strongly advise that we get an early treatment program in place. Wellness Company has stepped in with our kits. We hope our government will follow with what we call Big Ag, the big manufacturers that have the most workers at risk.
Yeah. Brilliant strategy as always, sir. Again, folks, for all the things that Dr. McCullough has done over the last 4 years, he's built this incredible company, twc.health/justnews. You're going to go there. You can get all those wellness kits, including the new bird flu kit. Promo code is JustNews, twc.health/justnews. Go use the promo code JustNews. Get ahead of this and be smart. Dr. McCullough, as always, thank you so much for joining us. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, an expose on the Cleveland Clinic reveals some, troubling findings. According to our next guest, we'll have that after these messages.
Welcome back, everybody. It is our last segment of the night, but it certainly is not the least important. Consumers Research has launched a campaign exposing the Cleveland Clinic, yes, the world-renowned Cleveland Clinic. They say that it is prioritizing race-based care, DEI, gender ideology, climate activism, of course, over the health of their patients, and that definitely doesn't sound good for the health of America. With us now to break that down, what's going on inside the Cleveland Clinic, the Executive Director of Consumer Research, Will Hild. Will, thanks for being here.
Great to be with you.
All right. What caused you to catch wind of what they were doing over at Cleveland Clinic? Because this is a clinic that is, I mean, like I said, world-renowned, does world-class research and treatment. What got you on the scent?
And in addition, it's also a recipient of hundreds of millions of dollars in government funding. The reason we looked at it is because we really saw that there was the trifecta of wokeness going on at the hospital. You had programs that apparently discriminate based on race and prioritizing care. They had two programs, one aimed at strokes, for example, that was aimed at specifically at treating minority patients instead of just treating all Americans equally. You have them engaging in sex change operations for children, probably the most egregious and disgusting thing that they were doing. But then also, and I don't want to underplay this, they're engaging in all kinds of net zero nonsense that was raising costs for consumers. They had, spent millions and millions of dollars on green projects. And even their CEO had said that healthcare was only a part of their mission. Well, I don't think the guy that started Cleveland Clinic would have thought that. They're a nonprofit. Their focus should be the healthcare of patients. They should be providing good care to everybody, not focusing on cozying up to woke politicians and woke activists. And so we launched this campaign, clevelandclinicexposed.com, along with an advertising campaign to expose what they're doing and send a simple message, which is get back to treating patients, not serving woke activists.
Yeah. Well, obviously, your ad campaign had a profound effect because Cleveland Clinic felt incredibly compelled to respond. And they say things like, this isn't true, it's misleading, it's inaccurate. And they use present term for two things. And I want to ask you about this. Present term, they say that Cleveland Clinic does not provide gender-affirming surgeries for patients under age 18, and we do not discriminate or create preferences based on race. But they use the present term. Was that intentional?
You got it. That is very intentional because our data, we worked these campaigns off of data from an organization called Do No Harm. Right. And Do No Harm's methodology, where they figure out which hospitals have been doing child sex change operations, is based on the insurance reimbursement requests that were put in by the Cleveland Clinic for these operations. So when they say that we don't do child sex changes, that's very savvy of you to pick up on the fact that that could be taken to mean they never did them. But what they're taking advantage of the present tense there because it's now illegal to do these operations in Ohio. But they continued to have all kinds of stuff on their website around gender ideology and counseling children with gender. Now, what's funny is on the same day that they sent us a cease and desist, claimed we were lying and threatened to sue us over our campaigns, they started deleting all kinds of web pages from their main site around this stuff. So everything from the programs that racially discriminated to the child sex change and gender ideology counseling to even the green commitments that they had made in their connection with Human Rights Council and even third parties. They asked Human Rights Council, which is a far left LGBTQ activist, to take down pages on their website about their partnership with Cleveland Clinic. So they're running scared. They know we have the goods on them. And despite whatever legal threats and nonsense and denials they may be throwing out there, we know the truth and we're going to be educating consumers about what that is.
I want to ask you specifically about the race-based triage, I suppose, pun intended. I vividly remember during COVID a number of cases. One was in Texas where they were prioritizing Black Texans for the COVID vaccine over white Texans, and there was a huge amount of backlash. Has this been going on since before that, or is it right about the same timeline?
That, it probably started before that when you had the rise of DEI and CRT, but it really went into overdrive. Concurrent with COVID, of course, we had the George Floyd-related riots and the BLM, corporate America just kowtowing to BLM left and right. And you're 100% correct. Before the shots became somewhat controversial, there were a number of different health systems that claimed they were going to start giving them out based on race, not just the triage of people who needed them the most. And there was another famous case in Boston, a health center there, basically wrote an open letter, op-ed, saying that they were going to be doing this and that they knew that they were going to get sued for it because it's a violation of a number of civil rights laws, but they were going to do it anyway. So this is part of the reason we felt the need to push back on companies like, or hospitals like Cleveland Clinic, is because the health, unfortunately we see this in history. I love doctors, I'm married to one, but unfortunately sometimes the medical industry does horrific things when they're not being constrained by morality and the law. And so this is part of what this campaign is about, is they listen. You don't need to be mutilating the genitalia of children. You don't need to be discriminating against your patients based on race and sex. And you don't need to be raising costs by engaging in all kinds of green nonsense. It's not part of your mandate. You need to be focusing on providing high quality treatment that, as you noted, they're famous for. So this is really about getting them back on mission.
Well, we've got about 30 seconds left. Real quickly, is your goal to shut them down or just to get to change your focus? And two, have any lawmakers or state bodies in Ohio or elsewhere jumped in since you started this?
No, I hope it's not necessary to shut down the Cleveland Clinic. What we'd like to see is get them back to focus on their core mission, their only mission, which is to provide high quality patient care. But I will say this, I think that the president put out an executive order asking every government agency to come up with 9 organizations they think should be investigated for DEI, for discrimination around race and sex. And I think that the Cleveland Clinic really should, the amount of money that they get from the federal and the state governments, I think they should be looked into for this, because people need to know that their tax dollars aren't going to an organization that's going to specifically choose one race and sex over care of another.
Well, with all of the good work you are doing at Consumers Research and revealing this, I have a feeling that that's going to be on a number of lists when it comes to the 9 programs, or at least take a look at. Will Hild, Executive Director of Consumers Research, thanks again for joining us tonight. And that's going to do it for us this evening, but Grant Stinchfield is going to take you through the next hour, and then we'll see you again tomorrow night.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Stinchfield. We've got an update tonight on Congressman Al Green. You know, this is the caveman from Texas. Him and his pimp cane, as Lauren Boebert called it, during that outburst during President Trump's address to Congress. The House decided to censure him. 10 Democrats joined him. That's the good news. The rest of the Democrats, not so much. They do not understand their party is imploding before their very eyes. Their antics are not playing well with the American people. In fact, 80% of the public said they did not approve of Al Green's antics that night. So what do when the House gets down to the business of voting to censure him? They pull this stunt.
By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker.
They end up breaking into song. I don't know what it is about Democrats and their stupid songs, but nobody's buying it. It was an outburst. You deserve to be censured. Every single Democrat should have joined them. But again, they don't stand with the American people. Now to the tariff situation. The market's still very uneasy about President Trump's tariffs. I told you, I have mixed feelings about them, but in the end, I defer to President Trump. He has been right on everything, so I will trust his judgment on these tariffs. So I refuse to call it a trade war. I don't think that's fair. All President Trump is trying to do is get us in line so we can have fair trade. All right, you can't have fair trade without free trade. You can't have free trade without fair trade, and that's the bottom line. And this tries to level the playing field. Now, President Trump today did pause for another month virtually most of the tariffs on Mexico and Canadian goods, everything that is involved in that USMCA deal, United States, Mexico, Canada deal. So that will be paused for a month. But then there's China. See, China I worry about because China doesn't care about human life. So China has a 20% tariff that's going to be issued on them. And then we got this tweet from the Chinese spokesperson, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, okay, and retweeted by the U.S. Embassy. It reads, "The U.S. must no longer seek to contain or go after China in the name of strategic competition, whatever kind of war it is, a tariff war or a trade war, a cold war or a hot war. They should not be fought and cannot win." China says they are prepared to fight any war, if you can believe it. That's not good, okay? So this is Pete Hegseth being asked about this.
They're rapidly increasing their defense spending, modern technology. They want to supplant the United States. If we want to deter war with the Chinese or others, we have to be strong. And that president understands peace comes through strength. He also has a great relationship with that gentleman right there, too, Xi Jinping. So where we can partner, where we can cooperate to recognize that we don't want war with China, we don't seek that war, we will. And the president has sought historic peace and historic opportunities. But my job as the Secretary of Defense is to make sure we're ready.
The problem is, and I'm a firm believer, is that China released COVID on the world with no regard for human life, no regard for anybody, because of President Trump pushing back against China's advances during his first term. I am fearful, very fearful, in fact, of what China will do next. I fully believe they're capable of unleashing another virus on the world. In this tweet from the embassy, it virtually says they're ready to fight any kind of war they want against the United States. In some respects, it's a chilling tweet. All right, joining me now is the author of his new book, Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America. Our good friend Gordon Chang is back with us. Gordon, welcome.
Thanks so much, Grant.
Gordon, what do you make of this tweet? It was retweeted by the U.S. Embassy, basically saying, hey, we'll fight any kind of war you want, including a physical war with the United States.
Yeah, China is sounding increasingly unhinged. And this points to a couple of things. I think that there is instability at the top of the Chinese regime. I think Chinese leaders know how bad their country, their shape is in. And there's all sorts of things going on which we can't see because Xi Jinping has made his regime even more opaque. So I do worry about what's going on. But, you know, this is not one of those times where we can shrink back because that's what we've done for decades. That's what's created this extremely dangerous situation. And we need President Trump to be strong. So this is one of those times where everything is on the line, and we have got to make sure that we are resolute and prepared to defend our country.
All right, when you say China becoming more and more unhinged, Xi Jinping always seems to be sly as a fox, a measured guy. Do you think he gets word of this tweet, this post on X? Does he have a hand in all of this? And is he becoming more unhinged?
Yes. I mean, we saw a coordinated response from the foreign ministry and also from the Chinese embassy in Washington. So this is something that is decided at the top of the Chinese political system. You know, we're hearing reports that Xi Jinping has been losing his temper recently. And that's a sign that he understands how bad things are, but it's also a sign that he's losing control. And there's also signs that the Chinese military is, if not in open revolt against him, is disrespecting him. And we've seen this with Chinese propaganda organs at the top of the military saying that they support, quote unquote, collective leadership. That's a direct challenge to Xi Jinping. And that's about as open as it gets when the Communist Party starts to splinter. And I think that's what's beginning to happen here.
All right. So this is one country that I really don't want the United States tussling with, other than this back and forth to keep each other in check. I'm fine with that, but I don't want to go to war with China. I don't think China wants to go to war with us in the end. So I think there's a lot of bluster here, but I do know this. China is willing to play some pretty serious games against us when it comes to stealing our intellectual property, when it comes to hacking into systems and sending everything into a haywire situation, and including, Gordon, unleashing COVID on the world. I am a firm believer now after looking at this. I think this was a bioweapon that China was pushing back against, President Trump pushing back against them. Do you think they could do something like that again? Or do you think I'm totally off base here?
No, you're 100% right. I mean, we know that this was a bioweapon. I think that it was an accidental release from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. But Grant, you're absolutely right, because once this disease got out into central China, Xi Jinping decided to spread it beyond China's borders. He did that by lying about transmissibility. He knew it was highly contagious, but he told the world it was not. And also, when he was locking down his own country, and lockdowns are controversial, but by locking down China, he was telling the world he thought that was an effective way to stop disease. So while this guy was locking down China, he then pressured other countries, especially us, to take arrivals from China without travel restrictions or quarantines. That meant that became a global pandemic. You're absolutely right. 7 million people outside China died. 1.2, 1.3 million Americans. This was murder. And yes, he can do it again because he's done it once and he's gotten away with it. No costs on China at all.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. We want accountability from all levels, including here in our own country. That's for sure. Which gets us to fentanyl. You know, you talk about he's willing to murder people. Clearly, the fentanyl is, I believe it's a full-on attack on America. Caroline Leavitt, the president's spokesperson, was asked about this and the tariffs and the relationship of the two. Take a listen to this.
But in addition to China's talk about being ready for any kind of war, they said yesterday, the foreign ministry said that, quote, the fentanyl issue is a flimsy excuse to raise U.S. tariffs and, quote, the U.S., not anyone else, is responsible for the fentanyl crisis. So what's the response to China that the talk of fentanyl is just an excuse for tariffs? And what does that say about the resolution?
Well, of course, the country that is getting very rich off of distributing this deadly poison to American citizens is going to say that.
Call it a flimsy excuse, boy. That's an awful, lame thing to say when you have literally tens of thousands of Americans dying at the hands of that fentanyl. Gordon, I'll give you the last word on this. How does America handle this? How should President Trump handle this?
Yeah, I think that we need to increase those tariffs. We've had 2 tranches of 10% tariffs. The Chinese are not budging. They could end this quote unquote trade war by stopping the sale of fentanyl. But this is a Communist Party project run by the top of the Politburo Standing Committee, Xi Jinping himself. He can stop this. 70,000 Americans a year die from this. This is murder. It has to end.
Wow. I agree with you on that. Gordon Chang, it's always great to see you. I urge people to go out and get your new book. Thank you for coming on tonight, as always.
Thank you so much, Grant.
Absolutely. Good seeing you. All right, I want to turn now to the war against Hamas. Things are getting serious now, as if they weren't already, right? I don't know why the world has turned its back on Israel. It virtually has. The United States now, with President Trump at the helm, is really the only nation that is standing fully with Israel, as we're now learning the United States is talking with Hamas. Now, I'm not a big fan of talking or even negotiating with terrorists. But again, if President Trump's folks can get hostages freed, well, then I guess you do whatever it takes. But here's the reality. President Trump knows that the only way you deal with these goons is with physical force. President Trump issued a tweet today, and it goes like this. Shalom, Hamas, means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it's over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. Tough words from President Trump. He said all hell would rain loose if they didn't release the hostages. They disobeyed that. I think we're in for something very, very serious here. This is President Trump talking about it.
From your team to negotiate with Hamas?
We are having discussions with Hamas. We are helping Israel in those discussions because we're talking about Israeli hostages. And we're not doing anything in terms of Hamas. We're not giving cash. We're not giving $6 billion like you hear other administrations give. In fact, I got 59 hostages out, and we gave nothing.
I think the other aspect to this is you got to put Iran on notice as well. If Hamas doesn't release the hostages, there will be hell to pay for Iran as well. Iran is pulling all the strings here. Now, I'm getting tired of the 600 terrorists being released for 2 and 3 bodies, not even living hostages. That needs to end, in my opinion, and these Hamas lunatics need to be wiped out for good. This is Marco Rubio talking about the situation, our Secretary of State.
He's outraged, and rightfully so. He's tired of watching these videos every weekend where hostages that are emaciated are released and bodies are turned over, and sometimes it's the wrong bodies, and this 5 here and 3 there, and these games that are being played, and he's lost his patience with it. He's been very clear about this from the beginning. He's created space and time for this to be solved, and now it's time for seeing it to come to an end.
Again, it gets back to this idea that people don't see what Hamas is, an evil organization, and the people of Gaza overwhelmingly support this terror organization. All you have to do is listen to some of the hostages that have been released and listen to their stories of what they've been through. President Trump invited some of them into the Oval Office, and I'll tell you, listening to them, my heart goes out to every single one of them.
One of the days they handcuffed one of the boys that was with us, and when he came, and he brought a cutter, and he cut his hand and smiled. They used to eat in front of us while they starved us.
It's a miracle.
That you're living?
Yes.
I was kidnapped on 7 October. My wife and my 2 daughters been murdered on the same day. I was held in captivity 491 days.
We've got to get the remaining hostages back. But we're also now at a point in time where these terrorists have to learn there is no running. Not from the United States of America, not from Israel, not from good. I want to bring in with me now, it's a great pleasure to bring back onto the program, though, first time as Deputy Assistant to President Trump and Senior Director for Counterterrorism at the National Security Council, Dr. Sebastian Gorka is back with us. Dr. G, congratulations on the new position, and it's great to have you back on the program, my friend.
It is so good to be back, my friend.
Well, you guys are doing tremendous work. I want to talk a little bit about the other terrorists that you're going out and basically ending their lives off the face of the earth. But if I could ask you about Hamas, the current situation, United States in talks with Hamas, how does all this go down? Can you bring me inside some of your talks and give me the feeling from inside the White House of the ultimate goal here?
Well, first, I'm so glad you started this segment with the video, the footage from the Oval Office yesterday with those hostages that had suffered at the hands of Hamas. Today was official hostage recognition day. I was at the State Department for the ceremony with the Special Envoy for Hostages, Adam Bola, with my friend Kash Patel, where I met again many of the hostage families, American and Israeli, and also met with the people who gave me this. I didn't know we were going to talk about this, but this bracelet was given to me by the father of an IDF soldier who is also an American citizen, and it says, "Bring them home now." I was given this prior to the inauguration, and I said, I will wear it until we get the hostages back safely. And it's the #1 priority for the president. There are two things I pledged I would do as Senior Director for Counterterrorism, is to protect America from evildoers. And that means getting our hostages back. And I can reveal this now because it's been declassified as of Tuesday morning, when we were on the tarmac with Kash, with Pam Bondi, with John Ratcliffe, the director of the CIA, with Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI, to receive the DOJ plane with Jafar. My #1 priority was to get the mastermind behind the Abbey Gate bombing that took the lives of 13 of our warfighters. I didn't think, now look, President Trump is incredible. Mike Waltz, the National Security Advisor, first ever Green Beret in that position, incredible. But I didn't think that my team, who are superb, would deliver this piece of human filth to U.S. soil 41 days after President Trump was was sworn in as the commander-in-chief for a second time. He is serious about counterterrorism. You've seen the strikes against jihadis, 23 jihadis killed in just the last few weeks by our incredibly exquisite military capabilities. And that's because President Trump told us 2 weeks into the administration in the Oval Office, you see them, you kill them, or you bring them home for justice. And that's what we are doing for the American people, Graham.
Well, I know I've had some of the family members of those killed at Abbey Gate because of that bombing that mastermind orchestrated. They undoubtedly are so happy that he will now stand trial here in the United States. You know, Dr. G, I think all of these things are connected. When you look at Afghanistan, when you look at the other jihadists that you have killed overseas, and you connect it back to Hamas, this radical jihad is a huge problem. I believe the Biden administration wanted to ignore it. Clearly, the Trump administration is not.
It's not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of fact. 8 days into the administration, after I had been told again and again and again by our war fighters, the Defense Department, by the intelligence community, that for 4 years, this incredible superpower had been surveilling jihadis, and the Biden White House and Jake Sullivan simply did not want to kill them. In the majority of cases, just watch them. Mike Waltz and I walked into the Oval Office with a military member of my team. We showed him a map, an intelligence intercept of an ISIS compound in northern Syria that was a cave complex where they were planning attacks on U.S. servicemen, on our allies, on our partners. And Mike told the president, we've been surveilling that compound for 1.5 years. The president, Mike, looked up from the Resolute desk and he said, kill them. And he took his iconic Sharpie pen, ticked the go box in the operational orders. Less than 30 hours later, I was back in the Situation Room with the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, with my team, as we watched hell rain down on those jihadis who had blood on their hands. And that was 28 hours after the president said, go and do it. So I think it was some senator from Illinois. I don't remember his name. I think it was Barack something. Anyway, that senator from Illinois said elections have consequences. Well, guess what? For the global jihadi enterprise, this election had big consequences, because we will, as the president said in his viral tweet that Saturday after that operation, he said in bold block letters, we will find you and we will kill you.
That had to be the longest 28 hours that you've had to experience, because I would imagine you're worried they're going to flee, they're going to go someplace else. How does that go down?
There's a phrase in the intelligence community called patterns of life, right? And if you surveil a bad guy long enough, you establish their rhythm, you know what they're doing, how long they stay in a certain location. So we had high levels of confidence that we had a window in which to strike. We were within that window, and sure enough, guys, you have to watch the video. My team incredibly declassified that video within 3 hours. President Trump posted it on his Truth account. You can see this jihadi ISIS leader, this financier, this plotter, this trainer, walk outside the cave, the number one target that we planned the operation around, and then suddenly, he turns into red mist. If you're a bad guy, we'll find you and we'll kill you.
Well, that's why we got you in there. That's why we got President Trump in there. And that's why I think the world is a safer place for it. It's always great having you on the program, Dr. G. I'm so proud to know you and you now in this position. Really, America's safer for it. And God bless you and the team. Big thumbs up from all of us here. And thanks for coming on tonight.
God bless you. Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely. Always good to see you. All right, folks. We'll be watching that. It's great to have contacts in very high places now. It's great for Dr. G to spend some time. This doesn't end, by the way. When he talks about the plotting, the capture, and oftentimes the strike against other terrorists as we speak right now, I promise you. There are others in their crosshairs. All right. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted name in emergency preparedness and is now offering a $100 discount on their best-selling 3-month emergency food kit, but only for a limited time. Each kit lasts up to 25 years in storage and provides over 2,000 calories and 100% of recommended value of 12 essential vitamins and minerals daily for 90 days, with delicious meals and extras including chicken, beef, fruits, and veggies. Your 3-month emergency food kit includes free shipping, a disaster replacement warranty, and 24/7 USA-based customer service. Go to mypatriotsupply.com now to order. All right, LA fire victims are still stuck in the mountains of red tape with no end in sight. That's Welcome back, everyone. You want to look at a real pretty sight? Take a look at this. This is the border wall back under construction. That is in Eagle Pass, Texas. They are reconfiguring a very small border wall into that big Trump border wall. It's like 18, 20 feet high with those big bollards. That wall works. President Trump has ordered the building to start again. That will make a big difference. The latest numbers are now the lowest in decades, even lower than when President Trump was in office the first time around. It took just over 30 days to get this done, but not before damage had been done by letting many of these illegals, very dangerous ones, into the country. Listen to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard.
People who came across our borders using an ISIS-affiliated network. Our National Counterterrorism Center went through and identified those individuals. There were hundreds of them who were either known terrorists or associated with known terrorists. That information was provided to the Biden administration. You may remember in some of the news, a little over 100 of those people were arrested in 2024. Of those who were arrested, only 8 were either deported or remained in custody. Only 8. The rest of them were released back into our country.
How in the world are you releasing terrorists back into the country? Joe Biden, I'm talking to you. Everyone that works for Joe Biden, I'm talking to you. Those days are over, folks, thank God. But again, as I mentioned, not before the damage is done. These terrorists are going to plot something big in the United States. You watch. And they'll try to blame President Trump for it, but it's Joe Biden, the one who let them in. So we now know, in order to stop the invasion, the Border Patrol is working with the United States military. Here's Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth.
And the Defense Department has assets that we can bring to bear, not just troops, not just surveillance, not just equipment, but actual planning and capabilities that enhance what Border Patrol is already doing, which is why it's been incredible to hear from our partners about what we've been able to allow them to do, facilitate them, and we've seen it in the numbers.
Isn't that something? A partnership. The Biden administration didn't work any partnerships between agencies. Why would you have a partnership when the border was wide open? I want to turn now to California. The folks there, especially in the LA area, are still recovering and will for many years, partly because of California's red tape and bureaucracy. It could be 5, 6, 7 years before they get these areas rebuilt. This is my buddy Joel Pollack. He works for Breitbart. His house was spared, one of like the only in the whole neighborhood, which is so crazy how fire works. But he's explaining here just how the challenge is real. That's an understatement.
Long story short, the mitigation company had sent the report more than 2 weeks before. So the insurance company was saying they never got it. It was sent 2.5 weeks ago. And meanwhile, we're waiting and waiting and waiting. And then we get told we need this other report from an industrial hygienist who comes to my house and looks for lead and asbestos or whatever, but then says, it's going to take 3 or 4 weeks to get the lab results back, not for the lead and the asbestos, but for the 17 heavy metals you have to test for. And endless nightmare.
That's the kind of red tape, that's the kind of bureaucracy that's going to take forever for Californians to recover. Honestly, I don't know why people live in that state. That California needs some real tough love. This is video, by the way, of what many believe is the start of the Eaton fire. LA County lost 9,000 homes, 17 people died. This is a sparking from transformers, and now LA County is suing Cal Edison, the power provider here, for this, claiming this is what started it all. I want to bring into the program Real Clear Politics national political correspondent and author of Fool's Gold, the radicals, con artists, and traitors who killed the California dream and now threaten us all. Susan Crabtree is with us. I love the title, Susan. Welcome to the program.
Thanks so much. It's great to be on with you, and I love the fact that you mentioned Joel Pollack. What a great American.
He really is. He comes on my radio program. I do Morning Drive out in Los Angeles every morning. He comes on once a week, and his story is unbelievable. And he's been holding many of the leaders accountable. I'm going to ask you, this lawsuit by L.A. County against Cal Edison, I've actually had mixed feelings about this. The lawmakers in California, specifically L.A., you got to bury the lines. They don't want to bury the lines. They don't want to disrupt everything. And then they blame Cal Edison and sue him for billions. But I'm not even convinced it's Cal Edison's fault.
Well, I'm telling you that America needs to wake up, and certainly California needs to wake up, Californians, to the role that the utilities have played in funding the Democratic establishment, the Democratic supermajorities, and certainly Newsom's gubernatorial campaigns. PG&E alone has given him $700,000 to him and his wife's gender justice films. PG&E even screened one of those gender justice films in their San Francisco skyscraper headquarters for Jennifer Siebel Newsom's films. So, there is such a tight and cozy relationship between the Democrats in the state and the utilities. And you see Gavin Newsom trying to investigate, saying he's launching investigations into everything, the lack of the water, Karen Bass's role, the fire department, everything except his buddies in the utilities. He also controls the Public Utility Commission. He appoints those people that are supposed to regulate the industry. Right. What it is just a revolving door between the industry and Democrats.
Let me play devil's advocate, because there's no doubt in my mind that I'm sure they're giving Newsom and there's all kinds of favors going on. But the devil's advocate in me says, all right, if you're PG&E in a state like California, or you're California Edison, you're going to get hammered by environmentalists. Are you throwing money at politicians just hoping you're not going to get hammered? Because isn't it in California Edison's best interest that you forest fire management so they're not blamed for fires?
You would absolutely think, but they have refused court order after court order to clean up the vegetation and to maintain their equipment. PG&E was responsible for 84 manslaughter convictions in the Paradise Fire. And then Gavin Newsom came in and cut them a great bankruptcy deal that allowed them to stay alive. He swore off donations after that PR disaster, but yet PG&E came in and spent $250,000 on his ballot initiative to spend $6 billion more on the homelessness initiative that we've already thrown $24 billion down the drain on that. The ties between the Democrats, especially the Newsom family, and PG&E and these utilities is so strong. In fact, SoCal Edison just hired Granholm, the energy secretary, after they received $600 million for infrastructure grids from the Biden administration and green money. So these ties are strong, and they're not. You think that this is just a utility, a corporate utility. These are monopolies that the Democratic establishment has allowed to exist and to continue these wildfires year after year. Gavin Newsom says it's no longer a wildfire season, it's a wildfire year, but he's not holding these utilities' feet to the fire. They are responsible for causing 1,500 wildfires in 6 years. I'm not kidding you. And the Democrats are not doing what it takes. In fact, the Republicans now have bills to end those donations to candidates, to Democratic candidates.
I would tell you, if you want to talk about a perfect storm, and I trust you on all this stuff, it's eye-opening to hear you lay it out for me. And then you add in the mismanagement and the political nonsense and the bureaucracy of California, and it becomes a literal perfect storm, a firestorm at that the people of California don't stand a chance in all of this. I appreciate you coming on and laying it out for us. It really is. It's fascinating to see how this is all connected, and it always miraculously leads back to Democrats. Susan Crabtree, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll get you back on real soon. Promise. All right, folks, you need to learn about Energized Health and intercellular hydration, supercharge your energy, boost your immune system, and dramatically increase your brain function. I did it. My first 15 days, I lost 15 pounds. You will look and feel years younger, all through a very simple and all-natural process. If you don't believe me, go to energizedhealth.com. Check out hundreds of amazing testimonials. Energized Health offers a 100% money-back guarantee. They're A+ rated and have helped thousands over 20 years. Go to energizedhealth.com. While you're there, check out their free masterclass at energizedhealth.com. You make sure you tell them Grant Stinchfield sent you. I want my success with them to be your success, whether you got to lose 10 or 15 pounds or 200 pounds. These guys are great. Energizedhealth.com. All right. Speaking of Californian Gavin Newsom, does he really speak some sense to our own Charlie Kirk? Wait till you hear what Gavin Newsom just admitted. Next. Welcome back, everyone. So I'll tell you what, Gavin Newsom has this new podcast out there. I was fascinated with it. He says he's going to bring on conservatives. Well, one of the first conservatives he started with was our friend Charlie Kirk from Turning Point USA, and of course his program right here on Real America's Voice. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way Gavin Newsom can hang with Charlie Kirk, not in a political debate. But what Gavin Newsom can do is goes buddy-buddy with the people. Oh, he tries to bring in all of these nice guy routine. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. But he made a stunning admission in this podcast, which I don't know if the left is going to give it any play because they don't want you to know about it. Roll the clip.
It's like you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate
but like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that. There's also a humility and a grace, that these poor people are more likely to commit suicide, have anxiety and depression.
Wait a second. Hold on a second. There's also an unfairness to that? You just admitted that it's not fair for men to compete in women's sports. So why then are you allowing it to happen in your state? Why are you on a soapbox preaching to everyone why you should be letting men compete in women's sports? He just said it. It is unfair. Well, Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats in Congress, was asked about this. He apparently didn't hear about it. Unprepared Hakeem.
California Governor Gavin Newsom's comments saying that Democrats were in the wrong for allowing transgender athletes to compete in female and girls sports. What is your response to that after Democrats had opposed the women and girls in sports?
I haven't seen his comments. What Democrats opposed was unleashing sexual predators on girls throughout the United States of America.
Wait, what? Shouldn't everybody oppose that? I think what you should be opposed of is unleashing sexual predators on girls across America, but you should also be opposed to unleashing cheaters on girls across America. Because if you're a dude and you're competing in women's sports, you have an advantage. The Democrats know it. Everyone knows it. And they need to wake up about this. How bad is it for women? You know, you heard President Trump talk about this volleyball player who was in the stands for his a joint address to Congress. And this woman had her skull fractured from a volleyball spike from a man who was playing against her. Well, she went on Fox News, and this is what she had to say.
Yeah, President Trump really gave this issue even more of a voice. He has before, and he just continues to do so. So him seeing our issue being important enough to speak about at such a nationally huge speech. I mean, at the State of the Union address, he mentioned me and our story and my story. So, having that, I'm so thankful to him.
You know who I'm thankful to is you, young lady. I'm thankful for you. You didn't ask to be thrown into this spotlight and start speaking out. You just wanted to play volleyball. You thought you were going to be playing against girls, and turned out you were playing against a dude. Well, now there's an Oxford study, yes, Oxford, that has come out, and this was their conclusion. It reads, gender-affirming surgery, while beneficial in affirming gender identity, is associated with increased risk of mental health issues, underscoring the need for ongoing gender-sensitive mental health support for transgender individuals post-surgery. So, what's interesting is I start to hear this debate about gender identity. Well, you can't debate that we identify as a woman. Or you may identify as a woman if you're a man, but that does not make you a man. You could identify as a cat. It does not make you a cat. So even having the argument about gender identity and that it's a problem that you may identify with a certain sex does not make you that sex, and it certainly doesn't make you that sex even if you have your nuts chopped off or, God forbid, anything else done to you, which is what they're doing. So this is Family Research Council Dr. Jennifer Bowens talking about this transgender study. Roll that clip, cut 4.
Those who were men going for feminizing surgeries, those men actually had really high rates of substance abuse issues, as well as higher rates of depression. So they were more at risk. So this is, again, this is not a surprise to us. And it's unfortunate that so many people are still going down this path, that we certainly have enough evidence at this point that says, this is not going to be beneficial to your mental well-being.
This is why President Trump says anybody who supports this stuff, we're not sending you money. Girls and men and women's sports. It's not happening. And so they need to wake up about all of this. But yet the Democrats don't. They live in a world of fantasy land, and they think the American people are behind them. They are not. Overwhelmingly, this issue, people support the Republicans on this, which is why Senator John Thune spoke out about Democrats blocking legislation that would have made this permanent, preventing men from playing in women's sports. Here's John Thune.
This is an issue that I think is just a matter of common sense, honestly, first and foremost, and it's an issue on which the American people agree with us. Almost 80% of the American people and a majority of Democrats believe that biological males shouldn't be competing against girls in sports.
I'm with you on that, but Democrats stood in the way. They blocked them. So just to bring the whole segment full circle, okay? Gavin Newsom had asked Charlie Kirk if he respects any Democrats. Charlie Kirk had a perfect answer for this, by the way. Watch.
Any Democrats you admire out there right now?
Democrats I respect. Bobby Kennedy type? I respect. Tulsi Gabbard.
Why are you laughing? Why are you smiling?
Because they're on our team now. Because you guys kicked out your best people. It's like the people that were into. This is a great point, though, Governor. Is that Bobby Kennedy was a heterodox opinion on a thing that a lot of people were concerned about. Get him out. He's an anti-vaxxer. Yeah. Tulsi Gabbard, who was anti-war. Get her out. She's a Russian agent. Yeah. Do you guys see how you have an unhealthy purification process?
Yeah, he says. Yeah. I got to go watch that whole episode. I think it'd be fascinating to watch them break it down. I really do. All right, it is tax season. That's not great news, but are you prepared? Are you prepared if the IRS comes calling? We'll talk about that story next. Welcome back, everyone. It is tax season. What do you do if the tax man comes calling? Not that you have to pay your taxes, but what happens when you owe taxes, back taxes? You've got a judgment against you. You get one of those letters in the mail. God forbid they come knocking on your door. That's when it gets real bad, by the way. Here's what you do. You call Tax Network USA. I want to bring in Cameron Kenzie to the program. Cameron, welcome back. Cameron, can you hear me? Welcome back.
Sorry, Grant, I can't hear anything.
Okay, no problem. Let's try to get that figured out. I'll throw it back to the guys. So right now, folks, as we try to get Cameron up, if you'll just give me a heads up when you think she can hear me, folks.
I can hear now.
What's that? You can hear now. Okay.
Yeah.
Cameron, welcome back. We were just talking about the IRS coming after people. First thing you better do, call Tax Network USA. I'm right, aren't I?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. It's really good to see you again, Grant. Yeah, Tax Network USA, for people who don't know, we're not just another tax resolution firm. We're a team of seasoned professionals who are all on the same side here, big supporters of this show, including tax attorneys, CPAs, enrolled agents, who really just specialize in navigating the complexities of the IRS disputes. You know, what sets us apart from other firms is just our strategic, aggressive approach, because we know that the government, especially the IRS, has had an increased overreach under the Biden-Harris administration. We saw it. So we're really just fighting back against that government overreach. And of course, it won't be cured overnight, but thankfully we have new leadership in office. But, you know, we don't just file your paperwork. We fight for our clients, just really ensuring the best solution possible.
One of the things I notice about Tax Network USA is that when you guys handle it with the IRS, you know many of these agents. It's not random. Is that correct, that you're just getting somebody you've never, ever talked to before? You start to build relationships with the IRS people that you're dealing with?
Yes, of course. So we do. And it's way better than just dealing with it on your own, right? You don't want to be on hold for hours and hours. We have established these relationships, and we do have seasoned professionals who are in your corner from the very beginning. We'll ask for all the necessary paperwork right off the bat, just so we can get familiarized with your case. That way we can build a solid defense for you. So you're absolutely right. Better than going into it, right, and then being left on hold for 3 hours while your wife is cooking dinner, etc. So we want you to be able to live your life without having the burden of the IRS on your shoulders.
Have you guys thought at all about what Trump's DOGE cuts will do to the IRS? I just read an article today that says they may cut 50% of the IRS workforce of 90,000. So I guess I'm right, almost 50,000. But what will that do? My thoughts are they're not going to get rid of the people that are collecting the most amount of money, and that's often your clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, I completely agree. I do think that we're going to see a shift in IRS enforcement priorities. Historically, when agencies are under intense scrutiny, like we've seen, they either double down on aggressive tactics or try to justify their budgets, or pull back to avoid this controversy. We have seen the hiring freeze with the Trump administration. We have seen where they're going to start laying off IRS agents as well. So I do think that they kind of have their tail between their legs right now, not knowing what to do, especially with this administration trying to decrease the government overreach that we've seen. So I do think that they're going to pull back on this. But again, I do just encourage everybody who's watching to, file early, get ahead of it. That way, you're ahead of the game instead of waiting until it's too late, instead of, thinking that this is just going to add up and then kind of ignoring the problem is what a lot of what we see with our clients. So it's just better to tackle it early. I know that the early filing was January 27th. So before March, really getting ahead of it is important.
Yep, it sure is. And I know you guys can help people do that. Let me tell people how to find you. Cameron, always good to see you. Thanks for coming on. And for all of you folks at home, Tax Network USA is where I want you to go. The website is tnusa.com/RAV. That's tnusa.com/RAV, or call 1-800-905-8000. That's 1-800-905-8000, 1-800-905-8000. All right, the Democrat Party cannot stop acting like a bunch of clowns. That's next.